In terms of content, real estate is way behind most other industries. People don't really understand the value of it, and they don't really understand sort of how to create it and how to get there.
This episode brought to you by Suites at Madison. Meeting and conference rooms for rent by the hour, week, month, or year. Suites at Madison, where business gets done. Check them out at www.downtowntampaoffice.com. Now, on to the show.
You are listening to the Invest Florida Real Estate Show, covering topics in lending, buy and sell strategies, property management, hot markets, and tips and tools to guide you along the way on your path to real estate success. You want Florida investment real estate talk? You have come to the right place. And now, our hosts, Eric Odom and Stephen Silverman.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Invest Florida Real Estate Show. This is your co-host, Eric Odom, along with Stephen Silverman. Stephen, what's the good word?
Well, business is still booming and there are opportunities around. It's interesting, even though the market's high, there's still spots where you can find opportunities and where growth is coming. Of course, it makes it easier in places where the population is growing, like parts of Florida, Tampa, and Orlando, and other parts.
Yeah, I'm not any type of pundit, and I'm not a crystal ball reader. I'm curious what this whole coronavirus situation is going to do. Obviously, it's affecting the transit and the hospitality industries quite a bit. I can't imagine. I don't know. I mean, like I said, I don't know. I don't have clarity yet on how it might affect investment real estate.
Let me tell you something. It's happening because people, first of all, are canceling travel plans. That's all being curtailed. They standing back and taking a look. I know for a fact that certain investors who were ready to put offers took a step back. They think that it could escalate and there could be buying opportunities going forward. And so, of course, you know, it's just a wild guess. Nobody really knows. But the mere fact that people are thinking like that could have a real effect on the market.
Well, the fear factor of it, I don't think we're seeing it already. This weekend, I probably received, 6 or 7 email blasts from the airlines advertising for overseas travel. And certainly, you know, we see it affecting the travel industry.
I can get you a good rate to Iran, and I think China also is pretty good.
Yeah, and we just learned today that somebody, the first in the state of Florida, popped up in Manatee County and popped up in Hillsborough County. Yeah, and a person that had been to Italy, I guess, was the person that was here in Hillsborough. I mean, I think the common sense will tell you that the restaurant industry is going to get hit, that any place where there's people gathering is going to get hit. I see the internet, Amazon's getting crushed, but is Amazon, people are still I think they're going to buy more. Netflix, Amazon, these type of things would be better. But what's going to happen with retail? Are people going to be more fearful in going out? Certainly restaurant.
What about ways of doing business like retail shows like ICSC, where thousands of people congregate?
Yeah, they might get canceled. I mean, that's possible.
They're talking of postponing the Olympics.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that you're seeing, school closures. Yeah, who knows? I mean, it's obviously many times more. Listen, I mean, they don't know, but we see the statistics, mortality rate of 1%, which is a lot higher than the common flu. But also, it's an incredible number of people who are asymptomatic. They don't show symptoms of the disease. And never show it, and it's a fairly large number. So it's very perplexing for me to look at the situation. Obviously, it's part of the reason why it's spreading so fast. That people are asymptomatic, and then they're spreading to people who, I guess, genetically have more susceptibility to it. But it's something we're going to be keeping an eye on here for the next couple of months. I don't want to dwell on it. I don't want to be a fear monger here. I don't know what it's going to do. My intuition is, you know, things like the restaurant industry and retail industry. If you're retail owners and you have a lot of restaurants, you're probably sweating a little bit right now, and as well you should. But it's worth just keeping an eye on. I think that's the only thing that we probably should mention. that it's just something to watch and think about how it might affect you going forward.
On the other hand, on the positive note, if you're a solitary person and have no friends and don't like to go out, it's probably good for you.
Stephen, who did you just describe?
I don't name names.
Guys, wanted to just give a quick shout out, and we missed him earlier, but KJ McQueen had left a review for us on our app, on the App Store, not on the show. We don't care where you leave them as long as we get them. But admittedly, we've not checked the app to see if the reviews have been left on there. And we just saw KJ McQueen that he says the best knowledge 40 minutes can buy. I've been meaning to write this review for some time now. Beyond the smorgasbord of information you get from the show itself is fun. Stephen and Eric genuinely seem to have a great time during the interviews. They take their time with guests and let them expand on topics in ways other podcasts don't. They also break down the information and knowledge presented in a way that's easy to understand and follow. The only drawback is I listen to them on my walks and often don't have a pen handy to take notes when a guest drops a gem. Thanks, guys, and keep them coming. KJ, that's a beautiful review. It's so nice of you. And as we remind all of our listeners that not only does that help you, it helps us. We see this, but potential guests go on and try to see what people are saying about us, whether they're going to invest time with us. Right, Stephen?
Well, you're right. And you're right in when you say that we do this for fun because we enjoy it. And really, if you're successful in any parts of your life or business, you really have to enjoy what you're doing. And because we have fun and we enjoy learning, it's a time just to sit back and learn a little. It helps us a lot if you give us reviews, because you'll see today we have an excellent guest, and the way we're able to attract excellent guests is they see the reviews. So please help us a little. Just step back, take 2 minutes and send us a review.
Yeah, that's definitely helpful. If you guys haven't done it, please do so. Also wanted to make a note of, we've had some folks that have reached out to us and have asked us about projects, participating in some of our projects. We are commercial real estate brokers. We also buy. I've purchased a couple of fix and flips and done some land development and some other things. Where if you're interested in working with us, I'm not going to make any promises about this. We're not looking for 100 people, but there might be 1 or 2 people that are out there that are listening and say, I wouldn't mind participating with these guys on some of the deals that they do. If that's you, feel free to give us a buzz or drop us a note or send us a line. We'd be happy to talk with you about your goals and see if they align. We probably, we have had some opportunities with deals that we've come across that, we needed some equity to complete. And, if that would be you, that you might want to partner with us, we're very willing and to listen. I'll give you actually a telephone number, the main number here, 813-514-1070. Again, that's 813-514-1070. Feel free to give a shout to us. Would you like speaking with our listeners? Sometimes they provide us good ideas and point us in the right direction. And so it's much appreciated when we do get an opportunity to speak with them. Stephen, we've got a great guest today because we're talking about getting more leads.
It really is important and it's timely. So let's roll right into it.
Yep. So let's go ahead and get started. We've been talking social media, your blog posts, and how to attract more business from your presence online.
Today we have with us Christy Murdock Edgar. Christy is a writer, and she writes for clients all over the world on all aspects of real estate, relocation, investment, and more. As a real estate agent, Christy understands what real estate participants need for their website marketing or blogging. She helps people improve the way they communicate their services to the world. Christy, welcome to the Invest Florida show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, Christy, we really appreciate the time that you're spending with us today. Stephen talks about you being a writer, and we actually found you through one of our mutual friends, Beth Azor. She had given a discussion with you, and I said, man, we need to get Christy on the show because she's talking to our audience. And it's not just about writing, like you're helping people get discovered on the internet and kind of helping them put the pieces of the puzzle together. Would that be accurate?
I think so. Yeah. I think, when I hear from new clients, one of the big things that I hear is, I want to be an influencer in my space, in my market, in, some aspect of real estate, development, investing, finance. And everybody, I think, has that on their mind. I think everybody understands the potential that holds for their business, but how to get there sort of step by step is really, the puzzle for people.
So maybe you can give us the basics. What ought people to know about how to approach this whole subject?
Yeah. And I think really even back up a little bit first, because I think a common perception of whether it be developer or realtor or investor is all they have to do is put .com, some blah, blah, .com up, and all of a sudden the phone starts ringing, and that's
that's what it is. Build it and they will come.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that, that's a misconception that a lot of people still have. And, I always say real estate in terms of content, and that's really what we're talking about, is something called content marketing. In terms of content, real estate is way behind most other industries. For a lot of industries, content is a given. People know that they've got to have an ongoing content plan. And in real estate, people don't really understand the value of it, and they don't really understand sort of how to create it and how to get there. So for a lot of clients, that's really where we are, is just trying to sort of introduce the idea. So sort of long story short, I guess I would say content, I think of it in three different parts. I think of it as sort of the core home base that you have, and that's probably for most people going to be a website. And then the ongoing major content that they're going to create. So for some people, that'll be a blog. For some people, that will be a video series. For some people, it will be a podcast. For some people, it may be a combination of those. And then the distributive content, which is going to be social media, email blasts, maybe direct mail, even for some people that kind of drives people to their other platforms. For some people, it might even be promotional items like an ebook or a white paper, something like that they'll use along with, say, a landing page. So it's sort of those three kind of core content pieces, and you really need all three of them to host that content and then to drive traffic to that content.
Yeah, and part of it is, the reasons why content is king. One is that you're trying to establish yourself as an expert in the field that people can rely on. But the holy grail is being ranked on that first page of Google, and Google loves content. Would you say that's fair?
Totally. I mean, that's how I built my business, really and truly. I was on a freelancer platform. I had been a school teacher for many years, and then was a real estate agent, and sort of combined the two because I started finding, that there were so many people who were looking for writing services related to their real estate business. And so I literally, threw up a little Wix website and just started churning out content. And within 6 months, I was on that first page of Google. Now, I did not have crazy amounts of competition. There are not a lot of people who do what I do. So, it made it easier for me. And faster than it was for some people. But I think so much of what made my site and then my business successful was the fact that I was constantly talking to an audience, and that audience continued to grow.
Yeah. And, talking about audiences, there's 2,000 folks that download our episodes every episode, every time Stephen and I get on. I'm not sure why so many people want to listen to Stephen or me, but they do. and now you're going to have a link back from our site to your site, and that's certainly going to help. I know that you don't need a lot of help from us because you have a lot of strong links back to your site, but that's all part of it is, you're being recognized by us as somebody who's an expert in the field of social media and blog marketing and website marketing. Therefore, they see us basically casting a vote for you and that gives weight to your site. Right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was one of the first things that I did right at the beginning was I started contributing to Inman, which is a big real estate publication online.
Massive. Yeah, massive.
I became a source for other journalists, like at realtor.com and different places who then linked back to me. And so that's really ultimately the thing that I think once you get all of your content pieces together, it's then branching out and becoming known, through these other avenues and then having those link back to your site. That's really going to give you the juice, for sure. So
when you interact with them, do they voluntarily link back to you, or is it something that you have to go and ask for?
Well, take the case with Inman, for example. I mean, how did that come about?
That was actually, depending on your belief system, God or the fates, or I'm not sure, but it was, for sure, taking a chance. I had a piece of content that I had written that a lot of people on my social media platform responded to. And they liked it, and I felt that there was an interest there, and so I completely blindly sent it in to Inman, and sort of for your consideration, and they liked it, and they came back to me, and I had an editor and we started working together. And now I freelance for them several times a month, and I have 2 columns for them. So it's grown into a really great relationship with them. Now with Inman, as a contributor, they did provide that link back. I didn't have to ask for it. Many, many times you do have to ask for it. And different places have different policies. Sometimes they give the link back only to people who are writing the article for them. Some places will give the link back to sources within the article. So if they don't clarify, absolutely ask.
Yeah, and it's all about these votes, which are link backs of how somebody, a third party, thinks about you and the information that you're providing. And in the world of real estate, there are very few that are going to have the type of, maybe Zillow would have the type of juice that Inman would have to link back to. So it's natural to see how you got ranked so high. So how does the average investor in the street or the developer get that type of credibility? How do you start with them, Christy, to get them on a track to be successful?
I think it really starts with having a really credible, good-looking website, having a body of content that's already out there, having some results that kind of lend authority, and then having social media and other distribution channels so that there's an audience for that content. And all of that tends to build your authority within your own little realm. And I talk about it that way. It's your little content kingdom, right? And then once you've built that a little bit, you can start branching out from there. One very easy way to do that is with Heyro, which is helpareporter.com. It's a service from Cision, and it just connects journalists with expert sources. And I use it, for stories probably every week, just as a way to connect with people who know a lot about, certain topics. And it's one of the ways that I was featured a lot early on. So that's just one way. There are lots of different ways. You can work with a PR firm, you can do all kinds of things, but that's just a really easy, free way that anybody can connect with journalists. And over time, you build relationships. If you're constantly providing really good expertise, sometimes you'll have journalists who reach out to you first and say, hey, do you have any thoughts about this? I'm writing a story about such and such, and I know you know a lot about it. So that's one really good way to do it.
And how often do you have to supply these articles to them in order to stay relevant? I mean, once every year or once every 6 months, they're not going to pay too much attention to you. At the same time, your content has to be good and relevant.
I always tell people, and I mean this sincerely, there is room for everybody, right? And so, there are people who I think doing connecting and creating content is their full-time job. I mean, they do so much of it. And maybe for them, it just, it's easy for them. Maybe they have a lot of spare time to do it. Maybe they have a team that's helping them. You don't necessarily know what their situation is, but some people are constantly churning out content. Some people may be able to do a blog article a week. Maybe they reach out to Heyro once or twice a week, and that's the most that they have time for. That's fine. Some people it is once a month. I'll tell you, I was doing a lot of content marketing, and starting in June of 2019, my business just went next level, which was great. But I was doing so much client work that it was almost impossible for me to do any content for my own business. Now, that was okay for me because I had enough clients that I didn't really need to bring in a lot of new clients, right? But it's not best practice. Best practice is you want to be creating content on a regular basis. But, sometimes that just happens. Sometimes, it's the slow time in your market or there's, for whatever reason, you're not going to be able to get as much content out there. That's okay. Do what you can commit to and what you can be consistent with and have high quality with.
Yeah. So what is the content? Is it facts that you're giving, or is it opinions?
A little of both. Sometimes it's, because as a journalist, I use Heyro. So sometimes I'm asking about something that I just know very little about, and I'm really looking for an expert to explain something to me. Sometimes I'm looking for opinions. So I may want, 24 people to give me their thoughts on iBuyer, for example. So, it can just vary. There are all kinds of things out there. And don't just think in terms of real estate. There are other things that you may be an expert in. If you can get that link back, that's what it's all about, right? So don't just talk about, say, real estate investment. Maybe you know something about hard money lending, having worked with, a hard money lender, or maybe you know something about college football, or maybe you know something about the University of Florida or Florida State. There are all kinds of things that you are an expert on, and there are all kinds of journalists who are looking for insights from people. So think of as many things as you can that you can speak to, and then get that link back.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen to you talk. Inman is great, very powerful inside of our industry. But imagine the weight of something from the Washington Post, New York Times, or CNN. These are massive, massive
exactly.
Link juice, as they call it.
Exactly.
Talk to us a little bit about. There's so many different methods of content. And if one's maybe better than the other, there's social media, there's video, there's blogging. Like, if somebody who's looking at this and they're overwhelmed by all the choices, and they're like, I'm just a small operator and it's me and a part-time assistant that's helping me process deals. How did they sort of organize this to make some sort of systematic process that makes sense?
So as I think when you're first starting out, try to hone in on the thing that you feel the most comfortable with, and the thing that is going to be easy for you to commit to consistently. Okay. So for me, I started out with blogging because I've been writing my whole life. It's very comfortable for me. Doing video, which I have done, is less comfortable for me. And it took me a long time to force myself to do video. Now, once I did, it was great. And I connected in a whole new way with people through video. And I loved doing it, but it was a really hard thing for me to commit to. So I started out with blogging and writing as my thing that I was committed to. And it's the same thing with social media. Some people love Twitter. If you love Twitter and you enjoy interacting in that way, then go in for Twitter. If you love Facebook, if you love Instagram because you're very visual, then do that. You don't have to do everything. Okay. I think when you're starting out, pick one thing sort of in each category and do it consistently, build a little audience there, and then you can move into other areas if you want to.
So I'd like to ask you a question that's always puzzled me. Obviously we all understand that a website is really important and you have to tell your story there. But sometimes, we've had discussions like how relevant for commercial real estate, which is a little more analytical, are things like Twitter and Facebook and Instagram to get your message out?
I think, there are a variety of ways that you can use these platforms. And the way I think of it is it's almost like an extension of, your online footprint. And so if I hear of a restaurant or a store or a hotel or whatever, the first thing that I do is go to their social media platforms and see what's there and see when's the last time they posted. Right. And it just gives me a little sense of their credibility, their activity level, what they're doing. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't have to be, and again, this is why I don't think that you have to be on every single platform, but people just want to know if they are looking you up that you are real and that you are active. I have gone, and looked up real estate agents and knew their market and their full name and maybe even their brokerage sometimes, and just could find virtually nothing about them online or on social media. That does not inspire confidence.
No doubt.
Right. And so I think it's the same thing for a company. People I don't think it's optional anymore. People expect you to have a presence, and it just speaks to your competency, your authority, all of that. They just expect to see something there.
We got started with our podcast. It's been almost 6 years now. And Stephen and I were talking about how we're going to dedicate time for various social media and blogging and whatnot. And we kind of looked at each other and this at the same time responded that each of us has a face for radio. And so rather than
speak for yourself,
rather than having to do some sort of a video where we would frighten people away, we started with the podcast, and it's been pretty good at building a decent channel. But getting to your point that you try to make, I'm the same way. I'll look at someone's LinkedIn. If they don't have a LinkedIn page filled out, it's no interaction. Yeah. LinkedIn is big for me personally, professionally.
Right.
Folks that they're selling homes and they've got or they're hard money lenders and they've had a post that was on Facebook that doesn't really tell me who they are and it was a year ago, man, I'm immediately turned off by that. And
me too.
At the end of the day, Christy, it's still, even though we have these new tools of interaction with clients, it's know me, trust me, like me, do business with me. And that know me is that piece is where the blogging and the social media and the podcast and all this sort of thing comes in and it enables us to kind of expedite that process. It's still a human process. Know me, like me, trust me, do business with me, but it expedites it. And this is what I think people don't get. They'll have that Facebook page and they're just 6-month-old post of some link to the local newspaper. I mean, it doesn't tell me anything about them. I think less of them.
100%. I totally agree. And the thing is, I think part of the problem, and I see this, just far and wide in real estate industry, for so long, there has been such an emphasis on professionalism in a way that is very difficult to translate into the kind of engagement that social media is really driven by. Mm-hmm. And so what you see with a lot of these younger entrepreneurs who are doing really, really well because they understand how to use social media is they are letting some of the walls down, and they are, they're up there looking less than perfect. They are up there, making a joke, or they're up there. There's a guy who started group called RETV, and his first little video that went kind of locally viral was him talking about an open house, and he was holding donuts in a snowstorm. And basically what he was saying was like, we know there's a snowstorm, but we came and shoveled the walk, and we've got donuts and coffee. Come on to this open house, right? And he starts just shoving donuts in his mouth while his partner's talking. And it was like not even a planned thing. It was just sort of this absent-minded. He was kind of nervous anyway. And
it was hysterical.
And it just was hilarious. And he became sort of locally famous for it. And I mean, his business went from 0 to 100 from this sort of silly, funny thing that a lot of people would have been too dignified or too precious to put up. And he just had a sense of humor about himself, and he put it up there, and it made his business. So I think we have to get out of this fear place, and get into like showing people who we are and letting that thing that we think of as our weakness, whether it's our face or our age or our whatever, be our strength, and really connect in an authentic way with people. I mean, it works.
So let's assume that somebody makes the decision that it's going to be a blog post, that they're going to be doing a blog. It's going to be a website, and that's where they're going to dedicate most of their time onto that. So on that website, I'm going to hold you into a little box here, and because I know there's a lot of things that people need to do, but what would be the top 3 things on that website that you think would be important for the person to be able to get some juice out of their site, whether it be on-site or off-site type of activities?
Okay. So I think the first thing they need to do is show their authority in some really easy to grasp way. So for example, if you go on my website, you will see a little banner under my photo that shows a lot of the companies that I write for and have created content for. And so when people go there and they see Inman or they see Microsoft or they see, Realtor.com or something, that tells them, oh, okay, this is somebody who, has some authority in this field, right? And I know real estate agents who do that with, like for example, in New York City, the buildings that they've sold listings in, or, there are all kinds of different ways that you can apply it. Of course, if you're in commercial or development, you could do it for projects that you've been part of, or, companies that you've worked with, but something that really in a shorthand way shows authority and shows reliability. Testimonials do that as well. So statistics do that as well. So that's the first thing that I would say to do. The second thing that I would say to do is to have a blog integrated there, a blog, videos that you embed, something that you consistently continue to add content to. That's going to help you grow your SEO on that site. And then the third thing is going to be the backside of the site and the SEO optimization that you do there, making sure that every page is optimized for the keywords that you want when people search, you want to come up for. When I first created my website, I optimized for real estate, I want to say writer, but I didn't optimize for real estate writing. And so I was very quickly on page 1 of Google for real estate writer, but not for, or it might have been the opposite. Maybe it was for writing, but not for writer. So I had to go back and redo some of my text and redo that backside so that I would optimize for both. So it's little things like that. Don't just think about one way of searching. Think about 2 or 3 different ways that people might search for your service.
So let's talk about a little inconsequential item, which is budget. Like, how much of course I understand that it's different from what you're doing, and everybody's doing something different and how they're approaching it. But what should someone budget on a consistent basis in order to build their presence?
If you have the skill and you're bootstrapping, I bootstrapped my whole operation for $150, which was the cost of a year of a Wix website with a custom URL. because I had the ability to do all of the writing myself, do the graphic design myself, all of that. So if you're just starting out, and that's what you need to do, you can do that very affordably. But if you have a little bit of a budget, and for example, you want to have somebody do your blog for you, again, that there's a range. There are people who are just starting out who may be able to do a blog post for, I don't know, $50 to $100. Now, whether it's going to be the expert level content that you want to use, it may not be. But then maybe you can do some content, but maybe you don't feel comfortable with finishing it. So maybe you just need to have a copy editor look it over, polish it a little bit. Again, that might get you in that $50 to $100 range per post. So that might be a budget-friendly way that you can ensure that you have some decent content up there. Mm-hmm. Now, if you get into higher level content, that obviously costs more. And then if you get into graphic design, like custom graphics for your social media, stuff like that, that's something that can be somewhat pricey. But again, there are do-it-yourself options. You can learn Canva, and you can do great custom graphics on Canva for free. Mm-hmm. So, there are a lot of, there's really, I truly believe there's something for everybody. There's something for every single budget out there.
So you've given us some ideas on budgeting financially. How about budgeting time? Because I could sit at the desk all day long, 5 days a week, and do nothing but social media and blog posts and video and podcasts and whatnot. So how do you coach your clients on the time commitment necessary to properly get your message out?
Time blocking, if you're not already time blocking, that to me is the surest way of doing it. Mm-hmm. Putting it in your calendar, making it a commitment to yourself, making it an appointment that you make with yourself, just like an appointment with a client, right? If you've got an hour, if you've got 2 hours, if you've got one afternoon a week, whatever it is that you have, make that time sacred and get as much done as you can during that time. So that might be, if you're a really fast writer, it might be that you can do a blog post and a week's worth of social media posts, pre-schedule them, and you're set for the week. Right? It might be that during that time you can only get done your social media post, but whatever you can get done during that time, do it. And I say this too. A lot of people have a lot of hangups about blogging and about writing in general. And I think a lot of that comes from, they had a teacher in 7th grade who put red marks all over their paper or whatever, and they just have told themselves, I can't write.
Forget about your paper. How about like rulers on the back of your hand, or even worse?
Well, absolutely. Oh, I had some of those too. So, there is no reason whatsoever to not get on a podcast, to not get on video. If you're uncomfortable with the writing process, don't do it. It's okay. You can get on a 5-minute video. You can convey some great information. You can, engage in a way that's going to really win people over. I blogged for years before I started doing video. And once I started doing video, people who I had known in writing for years were reaching out to me in a completely different way because they got to know me in a totally different way. So I definitely encourage you. Video is so huge right now. And you can make video work for SEO. You can make video work for your website. So if you don't have the time to devote to the writing process and you don't feel comfortable in that process, do video instead.
And where would you put the video? Would it be a link on your website? Would it be on YouTube? Like, how do you get the video to build your SEO?
You can embed the video in your blog post, right? And you can add a transcript. I mean, you can go to rev.com and get them to do a transcript very affordably. It's like $1 per minute of what the video is. So like a 5-minute video is $5. So then you can have a transcript. Now that transcript is sort of your written version of your blog post. So that helps with your SEO, right? Your title needs to be on point. Your thumbnail needs to be on point. You've got your tags that are SEO optimized. So you're going to get the juice out of that video just like you would have out of a blog post.
Yeah. And for folks that are listening that maybe it's the first time they've heard it, is SEO is search engine optimization. And,
Right.
Getting those keywords, I mean, you can kind of start doing some searches on Google to see the weight of those. There's a keyword tool. I'm not sure, is that still available or not? But I know that if you do certain keyword lookups, you can see the number of lookups by just doing the search on Google itself. It's a little like how many returns it has and how many hits it has and whatnot. Is there any other way that you would suggest to people to kind of get those keywords that they're trying to rank on, Christy?
Absolutely. I would say think about some different ways to look up what it is you do. Like what do you want people, when they put in a search term, you want to pop up, right? So maybe what you want is, Tampa commercial real estate. Okay. Put in that search term and see what companies are coming up. See what websites. See if you have competitors in your area that you're conscious of. See what words they're optimized for. It's pretty easy once you look at like their headers, once you look at the text on their site. What are the keywords that they're using? Those are the SEO terms that they are ranking for. Mm-hmm. And so, kind of see what's really dominating the space that you want to be in and use those same keywords.
Now, I'm going to have one more question and then we're going to let you go. But you've done such a good job, hypothetically speaking, Christy, of helping us get people to our site. And now that they're on our site, if you don't do something to capture them, what have you really got? Because you're not really getting the leads. You don't know who's hit it. So can you give us some ideas on lead captures from whether it be from blog posts or video that you might want to talk about?
I think on every page, you should have a contact box and a call to action. I think that's really vital. And I know some people are really reluctant to have a call to action within their blogs. And call to action, by the way, is just tell people what action you want them to take. If you want them to, subscribe to your blog, if you want them to email you, if you want them to reach out for a phone call, whatever it is you want them to do, give them that sort of suggestion or instruction, and then give them a way to do it. So link to, your email or give them a little box where they can join your mailing list. So give them the opportunity, give them that instruction. Some people don't like to put a call to action at the end of their blog post. And I write for clients, and if the client tells me don't do it, I don't do it. I personally like a call to action. I like to say, now you know this. If you have other questions about blah, 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 real estate writing in my case, let's talk, and give them the opportunity to reach out. So that's one thing I would say is make sure you have a CTA, make sure you have some sort of link or box or something where they can contact you. And the other thing is, go through on all of your content and cross post to other content on your site. So if you are writing an article, for example, about commercial real estate development, and somewhere in there you talk about finance, you should have the link going to another article you wrote about the finance process, right? That keeps them in your little kingdom longer. So the more you can, kind of refer to your own content and cross post that way, the longer and the more embedded they become in your little realm that you're building there.
So Christy, I'd like to ask you a question, because what you propose is a plan, and it's a commitment, and it's hard work. You have to be diligent about doing it. And there's a shortcut that people use, which is called pay-per-click. And what are your thoughts about that? and they use that to drive the traffic because they haven't done everything that you're suggesting.
Yeah, he mentioned the thing that he's most afraid of. I see him breaking out in hives, the term commitment.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Commitment.
Yeah.
I know it. And that it's not a joke. I mean, it's really
maybe
true.
it's a guy thing. I don't know.
People have different experiences with pay-per-click. What I hear is that people are not having the results that they used to have. The whole thing is, this has been around for a while. And so you're always sort of having to do something new to get the same results that people were getting, 6 months ago, 2 years ago, whatever. Because there's a lot of competition out there and everything. You can try pay-per-click. You can try it with a variety of keywords, see how it works for you. I always think it's important to try lots of different things. But cut your losses if it's not working. That's one of those things that if you get in there and you try it and it doesn't really get results, it's not going to get better, a year from now. It's just, if you're not really getting the results you want right now, go ahead and let it go and try something else.
Yeah, that's through Google AdWords and there's the Yahoo and MSN both have pay-per-click options that you can sign up for.
I think the more organic stuff you do, the more, real link backs from journalistic sources and stuff, that's going to really do more for you than the pay-per-click is going to do.
Yeah. And so the question is, are the people who going to be more loyal coming off a pay-per-click, or will it, because they're more engaged on your website, if they'll be more the kind of people that you want to maybe another way of saying it is, do you pay to go out on a date, or do you want someone to go out because they really like you and they feel you have something to say?
It's if you do pay-per-click, you still got to sell them on you.
Yeah.
Right. But if you are doing really organic content, they are warm leads, right? You've been talking to them. You have communicated with them through your various platforms. And by the time they do go ahead and, email you or subscribe and really become a part of your community, they are ready to work with you. They want to connect with you. Yeah. So it's that really warm lead as opposed to a cold lead, that I think is so key.
And are you recommending this as the company that's doing it, or is it the individual, or both?
Whoever. I talked to a young man not too long ago, and he's 20, he was like maybe 23, 24. And he worked for a very, very traditional company, and the company had absolutely zero interest in content. And I said, well, did they restrict what you're able to do? And he said, no, in fact, I've been, beating my head against the wall for a year trying to get them to do content, and they won't do it. But they said I could do whatever I wanted to. I said, then do whatever you want to. It doesn't have to be the company doing it. Yeah. If you've got a vision and you've got a voice, build your stuff. As an individual, I think that's important. A lot of people, their company will say, okay, we've made this website and we've made this blog, so now you can contribute to our blog. Well, no, you're just building their SEO. Build your own SEO. Yeah. I'm a big believer in be an influencer in your own right, and that's good for the company. The company shouldn't object to that, but it's ultimately going to be good for you because 10 years from now, you may not be with that company, but you will still have your website and your blog and your reputation.
All good points, Christy, because at the end of the day, I think you're right. People do business with people, not with companies. They do with business 100%. With somebody. Yeah, that they can look across the table and trust the person that they're talking to. And, this is the whole social media and blogging and whatnot it helps build that platform to get somebody to know you in a much faster period of time. But still, you got to press flesh, and you still got to go out and go face to face or belly to belly, as it were.
Yeah.
So this has been
when you get there, they feel like they know you. It's such a beautiful thing. Yeah. When they've been reading your content or they've been watching your videos, it's like you've already done that. All the introductory stuff is out of the way, and they can really, really connect with you in person.
No doubt.
So, Christy, how can people connect with you if they want to learn more?
You can look me up at writing, WRITING, realestate.com. And of course, you can always find me on Inman or on any of my social media channels, Writing Real Estate or Writing RE.
So after all this, they will find you if they go on Google or somewhere also in case.
Yeah, just Google Christy Murdock Edgar and you'll find me.
Pop right up.
I am there.
Christy, this has been really a terrific conversation. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we let you go?
I don't think so. I think I'm good. I just really appreciate the opportunity to be here, and thank you so much.
It was fun.
Hey, Christy, great talking to you.
You too.
We'll see you on the internet.
Sounds good.
And that was Christy Murdock Edgar talking social media, blogging, websites, SEO, very important topic in the line of work that we're in, and investing and developers and realtors and everybody in our business. Stephen, what were your thoughts about the conversation?
Well, I think the key point that Christy made was be an influencer. Make people want to come to you. It's much easier than trying to always find new people. They have to want to work with you.
And social media is not a replacement for doing business with people. It's a supplement, and it enables people to get to know you before they actually make that contact. And if you've got a good social media presence or blog presence or a YouTube channel or a podcast like it is with Stephen and I have, it makes it so much easier. We walk into a room and folks they'll hear Stephen first because he's got the Southern accent, but it's the real Southern accent. The real Southern accent. People will recognize that immediately, and they're like, "Oh, you guys are the ones from the podcast," and it makes our job so much easier because we don't have to try to explain who we are. I think over the course of time, 6 years, that people kind of get an idea of who we are and what we're about. That we're basically honest and ethical people trying to do the right thing on a daily basis for our customers. And I think that comes out in the podcast. And so there's typically a warm reception that we get from folks if they say, they've listened to us on the show. And I think that's what it's all about. It's just being, I think, the quote unquote authentic. Be you and find a venue that you feel most comfortable with. As I said, particularly Stephen, it was better that he do a podcast than he do a video. And since he speaks foreign languages, like writing in English was not exactly something that was going to be easy for him.
That's right.
So the podcast was the thing that we ended up doing.
Yeah, I had to transition from sign language, but to the podcast, but I managed.
Okay, well that's it for the show today, guys. We really appreciate the time that you invest with us each and every episode. But Stephen,
so important. We had a really great podcast today, and there's more of them. If you go to our website, www.investfloridashow.com, you can see the archives of past episodes, and also download the app and listen while you're mobile. There's always interesting educational information.
Guys, as always, we appreciate the time that you invest with us each and every episode. And until the next time, hasta la vista.
You've just listened to the Invest Florida podcast with Eric Odom and Stephen Silverman. Join us every week for actionable real estate investment ideas, and of course, visit our website at www.investfloridashow.com for more shows and tips on how to earn a cash flow in the real estate market in Florida. While hosts and producers of the Invest Florida show have no reason to doubt the validity of comments of our guests, we do not warranty their accuracy. Please check with your legal, financial, and tax advisors before entering into any investment. Returns will vary from person to person and deal to deal based on unique circumstances. All information expressed in this show is for educational purposes only. Opinions of the guests are not necessarily shared by the hosts and producers of the Invest Florida show.